What's good, peeps? Thanks as always for passing by the channel. Much appreciated. Hit that subscribe button if you guys are new. Don't forget as well, please, to like and share the vids. You can also support the channel as well. I do have a Patreon account. The link is in the description. All right, let's continue our What Next series. And let's go back up to the big boys and discuss what next for Joe Joyce. The unbeaten Joe Joyce, 10 fights, 10 wins. I think 8 or 9 knockouts. Olympic Games silver medalist as well. He was or is or should be on the fast track to get in that world title picture. But I do think it has stalled a little bit recently. There was a fight with Marco Huck in the works for January for a European heavyweight title. That fight is now off, or at least Marco Huck has pulled out of that fight because of, I think, an injured right hand. I'm not quite sure if there is a replacement. I'm not sure if Joe Joyce is going to fight someone else for the European title. But we'll talk about that in a minute. Let's go back and look at his 2019. It was a relatively good 2019. 3 fights in there against 3 veterans, all wins obviously. Bermain Stavern, Ustinov and Bryant Jennings. And before that though, in 2018, there was 6 fights. So he has slowed down in terms of the number of fights. Even if he fought Marco Huck in January, I think there was room to put another fight in there around September, October. The Bryant Jennings fight was, I think, the beginning of July. So I think they could have put another fight in there. And then Marco Huck in January. There were always problems with that Marco Huck fight anyway. First, I didn't think it was going to be Marco Huck. There was a lot of talk that Marco Huck wasn't going to have the fight. Then it was a case of Marco Huck's team won the purse bids. But I think Frank Warren did say at the Daniel Dubois press conference that there was a problem, proving that Marco Huck's team had the funds. Then it was a case of Marco Huck's team did have the funds. Then it was a case of where the fight was going to be. And then obviously now Marco Huck has pulled out injured. So there always has been issues with that. So I do think regardless of all that bullshit anyway, there was a time or an opportunity to have a fight September, October, and then move on to a good 2020. For now, it's a case of what next for Joe Joyce. What next? To be honest with you, I was a bit shocked when Joe Joyce signed with Frank Warren. I don't know if Matchroom was on the table. I don't know if it was a money issue. But for me, it made sense to sign with Matchroom. And I know I say that a lot, but I just look at the division, especially with what Matchroom have in terms of their heavyweight roster. I mean, look at the heavyweight roster that they have. Joseph Parker's on it. Michael Hunter's on it. Hrgovic is now signed. Povetkin is signed. Chisora's there. Then obviously you got, who else is there? Dave Allen's there. David Price is over there. Dillian White is over there. Anthony Joshua's. Why would you not want to be around that? Why would you not? I mean, you knock off David Price and Dave Allen quick, right? They'll be on decent little shows on Matchroom, and then you can step up to the other guys. I don't know if Frank can deliver the fights. I don't know. He's not high enough in the rankings to get a mandatory at any of these world title shots. He's nowhere near high enough in that. So he's got to get them as a voluntary. And can Frank afford it? I mean, you look at the 3 guys I mentioned, and no disrespect to those 3, they're not going to cost a lot of money. Bermain Stavern ain't going to cost a lot of money to come over, nor is Ustinov, nor is Bryant Jennings. They're not. It's that simple. Anyone else in the top 15 might cost that. And is Frank going to get him that? And not only that, but Joe Joyce is a risk, right? Unless you have to fight Joe Joyce, you're not going to want to fight Joe Joyce. I mean, if you're a young kid coming up and you're ranked inside the top 15, you're not going to want to fight Joe Joyce. You're just not, because he literally is high risk, no reward. It's a low money fight, big high risk. So they've got an issue in terms of matchmaking Joe Joyce. I know Daniel Dubois said he wants that fight. I just don't see Frank putting Daniel Dubois, who is one of his biggest prospects, if not his biggest prospect now. I don't see Frank, putting Daniel Dubois in with Joe Joyce. I will make Daniel Dubois a slight favourite, but not big enough a favourite to chuck him in with Joe Joyce, who could knock him out. So that's why I think they've made a mistake going over to Frank Warren, a big mistake. Again, maybe, I don't know, Eddie Hearn and Matchroom just weren't interested. I don't know. But it's going to be tough matching Joe Joyce with any fight that takes him that way. I mean, Huck for a European title was just a worthless fight anyway. Complete worthless fight. He wants to get in the world mix, and the European title doesn't even do that for him. It's his name and his promoter that does it for him. And his name's a risk. His promoter, I don't think, has the money to get one of these guys over, or even fly Joyce over to America to take one of these guys on. I don't know. I'm not sure if Eddie's going to match him with any of his talents either. I just don't think he'll do it. So Frank and Sam, his manager, have got a lot of things to do. A lot of things to do in 2020. Hope they do it. Hope they can, I don't know, get a couple more veterans that have a bit more star power. I don't know. Or maybe they can try and, I don't know, get a spot for him on the Tyson Fury Deontay Wilder card. Something's got to happen. I mean, again, Daniel Dubois, I get why Joyce wants that fight, but Daniel Dubois doesn't need that fight. Doesn't need it at all. I mean, I spoke about the risk factor, and it is a risk factor for Frank, but Daniel Dubois at what, 21, 22, does not need to fight Joyce. Doesn't. Joyce at 34 might need to fight Daniel Dubois, and that's saying something. So let's see what happens for 2020. I'm trying to think of a name of someone before I go in terms of a fight. Who's a name out there? Top 20. Gerald Washington? Is that a step back from Bryant Jennings, maybe? I don't know. Is that a step back? I mean, there were times when he was calling out Luis Ortiz. There were times, obviously, he was chasing down Derek Chisora. I mean, he might need to start doing that again. Again, with him signing to Frank Warren, I don't know if those fights can happen now. When he was managed by David Haye, you actually thought these fights could happen. Now, they seem very far off. So a lot of things to do for Joyce in 2020. And look, because he's older at 34, I mean, time isn't on their side. 2020 has got to be busier than 2019. Or if not busier, they've got to be better fights. What do you guys think? Let me know. Peace.